All right, here we go, everybody. The behind-the-scenes weather model discussion for Friday, September the 9th. How's it going, everyone? William Cole here in the Storm Studio. Again, we're heading right on into the weekend now. Hopefully your Friday's going well. Of course, this is our weather model discussion, right? So this is where we look at the raw data coming in here into the Storm Studio, the stuff that we look at to put together the forecast. So number one, this is not going to feature any fancy TV graphics, right? So if you're looking for that kind of content, of course, it's still available. You just have to watch our live channel, obviously, to get that, right? So on this specific feature, we make this for our social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. It's kind of bonus content, if you will. So I just don't want anyone to be confused. We didn't downgrade our graphics. There's nothing crazy going on. Again, this is just a new feature that we're doing. This is essentially the first week that we're doing it, all right? So not to confuse the two. But let's go and dive in. We've got a lot to talk about, again, heading into the weekend, and well, also taking a look into parts of next week as well. So I want to start with the visible satellite imagery here, and across North Texas, again, as far as precipitation goes today, I am anticipating a dry forecast, but it is that time of year where we have just enough humidity, and this is typically through most of the summer months, right? There's just enough humidity, even on dry days where, again, you apply the daytime heating, you bubble up cumulus clouds, right? Mainly fair weather cumulus clouds, but all the little white spreckles and the white spots you're seeing there, essentially those are just towering cumulus clouds, fair weather cumulus clouds going up across North Texas, kind of giving us that partly cloudy look as we go through the afternoon. Now, one thing you may have noticed this morning, and really the last couple of mornings, is the air was a little bit finer, right? It just, this morning was not quite as humid. We had a bit more of an easterly component to our wind, and as we go through the overnight, if you have a northeasterly, northerly, easterly, essentially anything other than south or southeasterly component to the wind, it helps to kind of what we call a vector pull in slightly less humid air. So again, this time of year, you begin to get those mornings where the temperatures drift off a little bit more. We did see more in the way of 60s for overnight lows. We were down to 70 officially here at DFW, but now as we're heading into the afternoon, you can notice those wind vectors or those wind barbs, again, how they're beginning to back off to the southeast again, right? So we have Gulf of Mexico moisture. Not that it's going to be an overly humid day, but we do have some Gulf of Mexico moisture back in place this afternoon. And again, one of the reasons why we're seeing those fair weather cumulus clouds out there as well. Now here's the overall setup, and this has changed quite a bit. We didn't do one of these yesterday. I've been working on a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, getting ready for our potential fall severe weather season, if we see one, right? The last two falls, we really have not seen much in the way of severe weather. Obviously, we don't want it, but typically we do have a secondary severe weather season in the fall. So we didn't do one of these yesterday just for the fact I was busy. But since we last talked on Wednesday, the overall pattern, right? This is the synoptic scale looking across the entire United States. The pattern has changed quite a bit. In fact, the big heat dome, the ridge of high pressure that was out on the west coast, it's beginning to break down. You can see those black lines through the northern tier of states. That's a developing storm trough. And oh, by the way, we also have a tropical system, Tropical Storm K, that is spinning up now to parts of Southern California. It's pretty rare in Southern California to get tropical weather. Now, I'm very familiar with Southern California. I lived out there for quite some time, and when I was with the Navy, number one, and really more so after I got out of the Navy, was in Southern California. But a lot of times they'll get what's called Pineapple Express systems, and I know that sounds pretty random. That's really what they call them out there. Pineapple Express systems that can also come in that are semi-tropical, and they're wet. There's a little bit of wind. Typically December and January is when you get those type of systems out there. So this time of year, they don't get a lot of rain whatsoever. So again, with the tropical system moving through, lots of hills, lots of valleys, things like that out there, again, flash flooding will be a real concern. But again, if you look carefully at the map, you can see the little donut hole, and that's the centralized area of low pressure with that tropical system. So not unprecedented, but again, it is pretty remarkable that, again, as cool as the Pacific waters are there, that again, Kay was still able to kind of hold it together long enough to make it up into Southern California. Not a major weather player, but for the folks out there, it is a pretty big deal. And then also you can notice the little donut hole across the deep south. That is also an area of disturbed weather, but it's pumping up Gulf of Mexico moisture. Now, even though I said we're not going to use any TV graphics, I do want to show this because it really illustrates what's going on. And this is the water vapor imagery. So again, you can see K out there on the Pacific coast. There's the front associated. This will be our front for this weekend, associated with the big storm trough off to the north. And then you can notice that other little, looks literally like a donut down there in the deep south. It's just an area of low pressure, but you can see the moisture, right? The moisture content here on the water vapor imagery just being pumped. I mean, it's literally like a conveyor belt up into the deep south and into parts of Florida. And again, they're going to have another big opportunity of rain and even potentially some heavy rain as we go through the day down there as well. So again, a lot of things going on, but right now North Texas kind of in between all of it, and simply put, up until Sunday when that front begins to move through, our pattern is essentially what you see is what you get. It's very quiet out there. So quickly here, the opportunity of severe weather today. It's way up in the northern tier. You can see part of the UP in Michigan, parts of Wisconsin. It's a marginal risk up there, mainly for wind, obviously the big storm trough and the cold front up there. And then also down in the Florida Peninsula, part of the Carolinas, marginal risk as well, mainly hail, again, associated with just that slug of moisture that does continue to come up down there as well. Looking for tomorrow, Saturday, unusually quiet for this time of year. Look at that. Officially from the Storm Prediction Center, there's no risk of any severe weather whatsoever. And then even as we get into Sunday, no risk of severe weather either. Quickly, I do want to just tell you, these maps here that I'm using, what I was showing here, this is the Storm Prediction Center meso-analysis page. Someone asked me about that the other day, and I meant to mention that. We do use these here in the Storm Studio. There's a ton of products with that, and again, obviously it's free. So again, if you're looking to maybe do some analysis or something even on your own, just go to the Storm Prediction Center page. It's the meso-analysis page, and we use it on the daily, but especially when we get into severe weather season, there's also a lot of great products on there as well. So from there, I do want to switch over to the model. This is truly what it's all about, right? We've kind of been prefacing this, but let's go and get down to business. By the way, I use weathermodels.com for the model. This is what we're going to be looking at. WeatherBell's great. We've all used that. I also like AccuWeather Pro. In fact, I used AccuWeather Pro really for the longest time. But the one thing I like about weather models is you can see this little chart over here on the side. You can actually bookmark all of the maps and all of the charts that you use the most often. And it's a lot easier than having to go through and select the data. That is actually truly the only reason why I use weather models. But as soon as I saw that, it was a no-brainer to me, and that's why I just use this service. They're all basically the same, right? There's a few additional products with AccuWeather Pro. It's a little more costly. I did like it, but again, like I said, just having the bookmarks and being able to use this, for me, this is really what works. And again, we use this operationally, right? There's a lot of folks out there who, if you're just looking for data, obviously Pivotal Weather, there's a lot of free sites you don't have to pay for whatsoever, and most of it you can look through, minus stuff like the Euro data, and there's some additional kind of premium products here that we use as well. But again, most of this data you can find out there completely free before you go and pay for anything. For the folks who want to pay or maybe use it more operationally, again, Ryan Maurer, who was part of WeatherBell, this is his. And again, like I said, you check it out. I really like it. Again, not trying to plug this, but just kind of throwing that out there. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the overview. And man, I tell you what, this isn't really zoomed in that well. Let me go and try and do this. And this is going to be, I'm going to try and do this very quickly here on a system. Let me see if I can't zoom this in just a little bit more. And I'm sorry to do that right in the middle of this here, but it is going to be kind of important to see what we're doing and what we're talking about, okay? And so, sorry, I know that's kind of ghetto to do that right in the middle of this, but okay, so this is what we're talking about. This is the overall chart. This is the 500 millibar chart. We're doing the same thing we were just doing in real time. We're looking for storm troughs, big dips, or we're looking for areas of high pressure, right? Storm troughs bring active weather, areas of high pressure, it's sinking air, it's calmer weather, right? So you kind of use those to denote what the pattern could be, right? So as we go forward in time, this is the European data here, taking us out over the next 10 days. There's our big storm trough. You can see it coming through. In fact, dipping all the way down in parts of the central and southern plains. That's what's pushing that cold front through. Now again, there's not going to be a lot of cold air with it, but it will ease our temperatures down into the mid 80s. Also a lot of less humid air, right? Some fairly dry air coming through. As we go forward in time, that big storm system turns into a bowling ball. You see it moving up through the Great Lakes region and pulling away. We stay in kind of a northwesterly flow behind it. That means our pattern could be active. We just don't really have a lot of moisture for anything to work with. We don't really see any major systems coming through between now and then. And then notice the big donut hole beginning to redevelop. In fact, for a little while there, this is going to be by this upcoming Thursday, talking about next week, we have a ridging pattern beginning to build back in. And so that's going to keep us fairly dry. That's going to allow our temperatures to get just above normal for this time of year. But on the back side of that ridge, look at that next big trough digging in. That's a Pacific storm system. So again, no chilly air with it whatsoever. But as I fast forward this in time, you can see as those storm troughs begin to kind of swing out, nudge the ridge further off to the east, the way it looks right now in about 11 or 12 days, that's going to be our next opportunity of rain. Between now and then, we're essentially dry. Again, it's not completely out of the question on Sunday as that front kind of nudges on through. I have a 10% opportunity of a stray shower around, but the way it looks to me, I think we're going to remain mostly dry, unfortunately. So after the really wet, active pattern we've been in, we're going pretty stagnant here going forward. So this is the 850 millibar chart, right? This is looking just off the surface. This is very good this time of year to see where the change of air mass is, right? Sometimes the surface can be a little cluttered, so we look just above the surface, and again, you can see and begin to see the different air masses moving. And again, even as we get deeper into fall and potentially into winter, you'll begin to see even some colder air build up north as well. So you're kind of keeping in mind the whole pattern of exactly where those air masses are moving as well. So there's our front. You can see it very well in the 850 millibar chart. Basically makes it into North Texas, Central Texas, basically stalls. There it goes. Here comes the ridge building back in. You can see temperatures getting at or above normal again, unfortunately. And then look out on the Pacific West Coast there. There comes that next storm system, and again you can see there's a bit of a change in air mass, but there's no cool air that would be associated. Again, if that storm system is able to break down the ridge, the data ends right there on day 10. It appears as though that final dip in the jet stream, that final storm trough, should be able to make it into the southern plains. If so, again, it's kind of what we call a continental front, right? There's no change in air mass, and it may pose an opportunity of rain. So we're kind of extrapolating out there just a little bit after day 10. So from there, what I want to do, I want to look at precipitation opportunities. And again, I know this is a little long-winded today, but this is what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of take our time and run through this. Again, this is still the European data, and again, we're just running out through 10 days. And again, here comes the front on Sunday. There it is up in Oklahoma. Look at Oklahoma, rainstorms, or Texas Panhandle rainstorms. Here it comes into North Texas, and simply put, we just don't have enough moisture for it to work with. So it's what we call dry frontal passage, or dry faux. If you're looking for a term, there it goes. It's pretty dry, right? So then towards the end of this, again, as we get into about day 10, 11, 12, you can see it looks a little unsettled. You can see out to our west, here comes that next potential storm system. And again, extrapolating out, we'll put about a 20% opportunity on day 10, day 11, with an opportunity of rain and storms. And again, a very weak continental front moving through as well. So again, a bit of an asterisk on the extended part of the forecast. But again, between now and then, it's really just steady as she goes. There's not a lot of day-to-day change. Now, the one thing you will notice, and this time of year we like to start talking about this, I'm going to put on the dew points, right? This is the measure of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll you behind this front, right? This Sunday front. And again, not that we're going to be overly humid ahead of it, right? I mean, we're relatively dry anyway. We do have return flow or winds kind of backing off to the southeast. We'll get a little bit of Gulf of Mexico moisture up, but take a look at this. There's that front. You can see it. Look at all that dry air. That's going to be the bigger thing with this front. Look at all those blues. Again, that's not cold air. That's dry air, right? We're looking at dew points here. So again, as we start off Monday, Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday, the dry air mass is all the way down literally to the Gulf Coast. There's Wednesday. Wednesday even looks dry. So even though temperatures are going to be jumping back up next week into the mid-90s, it's going to be a very dry air mass. Now, I say that, take a look by the end of next week as we get into Friday, Saturday, this would be Sunday. Look at all that Gulf of Mexico moisture streaming back in. We've got dew points back in the 60s and 70s. That's going to be thick moisture just ahead of that next storm system. Again, still extrapolating out 10, 11, 12 days. Could there be enough moisture around again for us at that point in time to get some rain, some thunderstorms around? Again, that's where that 20% opportunity comes from. So just kind of the thinking there behind the forecast. Real quickly here, these are just rainfall totals, right? This is going to be the Euro over the next 10 days. We'll just roll this through. And who gets rain? everyone but North Texas. It's literally a rain dome around North Texas. So we'll see, like I mentioned, 10, 11, 12 days on down the road if we can change that. But I mean, we've had quite a bit of rain. We know that. I mean, we've had our fair share over the last couple of weeks. So if we have 1 week where it basically goes dry, not really a big deal, right? What I want to do now, just quickly here, I want to look at this is the short-term data. This is what we call the HER model, right? This is the rapid refresh, hourly rapid refresh model. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the last big run, right? Every 6 hours, we get a run that goes out for 48 hours, okay? So this is going to be what we call the 12Z run, just a little bit earlier this morning. This will take us out the next 48 hours. This is future radar, right? The other model that we were looking at, the Euro, it's a global model. It goes out 10 days, but the resolution is not as good, right? So this is a high-res short-term model. And again, just looking for any opportunity of precipitation. And again, just as we run it through, again, the next 48 hours, you can see there's some stuff in Oklahoma like we talked about. There's some stuff out in the high plains. And you can see by the time we get to Sunday, there's stuff close enough to us in the vicinity that even though I really don't think we're going to have any precip on Sunday, I did go ahead and keep a 10% opportunity. When you get kind of a change of air mass front like we have moving through, we have just enough Gulf of Mexico moisture, not impossible to maybe get a shower or thunderstorm around, but again, for your Sunday plans, it's a 10% shot. I mean, more than likely, everyone just stays completely dry, right? Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the raw data. And first of all, this is the European, right? This is what it's doing. And again, you can see temperatures basically around 90 through the weekend. By the time we get to this upcoming Monday, it's still advertising 86, right? It's fairly bullish on less hot temperatures, right? So for your Monday behind that front, 86, fine dry air. Now, as that ridge begins to build back in next week, again, temperatures do take back off. We're back into essentially the mid-90s. Precipitation below that, basically dry up until, again, day 10. That's when we may begin to get active with that next storm trough, day 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so that's what the European does. This is what the blend of models does. In fact, let me go and take this back one. And this is what I truly forecast off of, right? My 12-day forecast normally looks pretty similar to this. I tweak it a little bit off of that Euro data we just looked at, but this does take into account the Euro, right? It takes into account all of the models, and they're weighted on how accurate they typically are, and then that basically spits out this data. So again, heading into Saturday, right around 91. Sunday, this thinks the front comes through a little bit earlier in the day. I think Sunday we're probably still up around 90, and then this is only saying 88 for Monday. So I've kind of split the two. I'm going with 87 on Monday, kind of splitting the Euro and the blend here. And then next week, it's basically saying the same thing, right? Most of the models agree that temperatures are going to trend back above normal as that, again, kind of late summer heat dome, if you will, but truly just a ridge of high pressure begins to build back in. Not crazy heat, but again, temperatures just above normal for where we should be. And then quickly here, this is just looking at, again, the short-term data, again, over the next 48 hours. And again, it basically agrees with that, putting us right around 90 for a daytime high tomorrow. It puts us down to about 66 for our morning low. And again, it keeps us essentially completely dry. Tomorrow morning, we will have a northeasterly component to the wind again. So again, less humid even to start your Saturday morning, kind of that crisp start to the morning. And again, one of the reasons why we're able to ease that overnight low, morning low down to right around 67. So like I mentioned, this is almost 18 minutes. We were trying to do these in 5 to 10 minutes. I don't think we're going to be able to do that. We probably won't do 18 minutes, but we'll try and condense this as we get going. But kind of in general, that's what we were talking about and looking at. And hopefully you could see those last few charts. Looks like some of that, unfortunately, was maybe cut off. And again, hopefully not all of it was cut off. Let me go and take a look at this blend of models. Okay, so you're able to see that one. You just couldn't see the last one. So I can just kind of see that out of the corner of my eye there. So anyway, folks, that's where we are. Again, thanks for tuning in here. Again, if you're looking for our TV graphics, watch our channel. We always have your complete forecast there. Otherwise, of course, if you have not already downloaded our free mobile app, be sure to do that as well. Again, go to your app store, again, iOS, or even to the Google Play Store. And again, download it for free. And of course, our live channel, always available on Roku, Apple, and Amazon Fire TV. If you have not added it, be sure to do that as well. Otherwise, have a great weekend. We'll have more updates through the weekend. Of course, Patrice Brown, our Saturday meteorologist, she'll be in with your complete forecast tomorrow. Make it a great weekend.